Hello, all, and welcome to Are You Hooked, where we discuss how a TV show captivates an audience. My name is Jennifer Hahn,
And I'm Sarah Callan.
and we are fascinated by what draws people into a story and want to understand what are all those pieces that get us hooked on a TV show. In this episode, we will be discussing the closing scene of Andor Season 1, Episode 1. So I guess it's your spoiler alert because we're about to talk about all of the different plot points and things that maybe have led us to this closing scene. This episode is particularly exciting because both Sarah and I have not watched the full season of Andor Season 1 yet at all. So this is truly, we're really answering the question, are you hooked or not? Sarah, do you want to give a short description of this closing scene?
Yeah, the closing scene is a flashback where young Cassian is getting ready to go off with the group and his younger sister can't come with them.
All right. It's a short scene, as we also were chatting about before we were recording. It's like a minute, I think.
Yeah. It's interesting because even when we were thinking about like doing this format of a show, we were like, okay, we'd pick like a 3-ish minute scene to try and talk about, and there's plenty of meat there. And it's interesting that Andor, both the opening scene and the closing scene, haven't fit with like what our mental model was for this show, or for these episodes. So that's even interesting. But yeah, this scene is a little less than a minute. It's like 50 seconds long.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's dive in and talk a little bit about whether we are hooked on this show or not based on this ending scene. So, Sarah, does this ending scene of Andor Episode 1 make you want to watch the next episode of Andor or not?
So I actually have a confession to make about this show. I didn't realize it when we were initially talking about this, but I had watched this episode before and I had forgotten about it. So
I guess the answer was no, and then also now again no.
Yeah, pretty much. While I was watching this, I was like, wow, this is seeming really familiar to me. And then I asked my friend and he was like, yeah, no, we watched this together. And I was like, oh, okay, that's why it seemed a little familiar. I think the first time that I watched this, I felt kind of neutral about it. Like, I'm okay to keep going, but like there was other really exciting TV to watch, so I watched that instead. And that's how I feel again now. Like I'm intrigued about this show because I've heard such good things about season 2. And I'm like, man, I really want to watch season 2 because that's what everybody says is so great. But I'm not hooked by this episode. I really don't feel like I have a great grasp of the characters or kind of the central conflict. Some of the stuff I think with the like flashbacks to his home, I think are really interesting. The contrast between where he came from and where he lives now and just like the world building and all of that. That is interesting to me, exploring these different areas of this universe. But I think I don't have a strong desire to follow Cassian any further. I didn't have necessarily a bad time while watching this, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, I have to watch the next episode. So I probably won't watch anymore. And, maybe eventually I will get to this, but it's not high on my to watch list. What about you? Based on this ending scene, are you hooked? Do you want to watch more?
No. So we are two for two on the nose, man. I was hoping that I would change my answer from the opening scene, no, to this closing scene, but alas, I think that this episode has made me less interested in the show than the opening scene. I think that this closing scene could have been really interesting as an ending scene because there's a clear like emotional set of stakes with him going off and leaving his sister behind, and the show at the beginning of the episode tees up that he's looking for his sister. But the problem is that we don't learn anything from the opening scene to the ending scene about the sister and why it's important and what that relationship's like and why it's so significant that he's looking for her. So it feels like this ending scene is giving us a crumb for a thematic, emotional plot point that like doesn't get developed at all. So in theory, this is a potentially really amazing ending scene, but I think the rest of the episode doesn't tee us up for that to have the emotional weight and the stakes. So, yeah, on the whole, no. I think this episode in general wasn't really interesting to me at all. I really felt my mind wandering and having to like lock in and focus again. It almost feels like there's so much happening and all of these different people that we're meeting, but they all aren't really distinct enough. Honestly, the characters that I'm most intrigued by are the chief inspector and Cyril Karn. I want to know what's happening over there. And there's such tension between the two of them. Give me more of that because he's going behind his back and doing some things like, ooh, that's juicy and that's a ticking time bomb. So the side characters were more interesting to me than our main protagonist, which is, I think, kind of a problem with this episode. So, yeah, on the whole, this did not work for me. But again, heard amazing things about this show. So, what am I missing?
Right? That's how I felt too upon apparently rewatch because I had forgotten the first time. Of like I don't I don't get it. I don't feel like there was enough for the of this main character for me to like really sink my teeth into. I don't feel like I have a good sense of who he is. And I mean, obviously in one episode you're not going to know everything about a character, but I would like to have a better sense of like what's driving him. You know,
Mhm.
obviously he wants to find his sister. Okay, sure. Makes sense if you know you haven't seen your sister in a long time. Cool. But there wasn't really anything else there. And then obviously like he's running because he just killed two dudes. And
Mhm.
that makes sense. Of course you're gonna be on the run. But I don't know. There just wasn't enough meat there for me, I think. And then these flashbacks, I think while interesting because of the contrast between worlds, it doesn't really show us anything additional about the character either. You know,
Mhm.
he was a little kid that wanted to be with the big kids and doing big kid things and left his sister. That's kind of all we get from the flashback too, which
Yeah.
doesn't really help me in my like, I want to know this character better. So I think even this closing scene, while I think it could work as a cliffhanger, I don't think that I had enough information throughout the episode for this to really pack the emotional punch that I think it was
Mhm.
intended to.
Mhm. Mhm. And I think also, it's okay if there's a disconnect between what we're learning in the flashbacks and in the present. That can be really interesting to us. But the problem is, like you mentioned, in the flashbacks, we don't really learn that much new information about who this person is based on where they've come from in their childhood. There's these small little moments where obviously, like this character is being kind of criticized by the other members of the group or for doing something or getting looks and things like that. So it's helping us get a little bit of a taste, but I don't know, nothing significant enough that wants me to lean in to know who are you and why are you wired this way and where did you come from. Uh, so ironically, I think the problems of the opening scene still stand even by the end of the episode, which is the the intrigue and the dynamicness of our protagonist is missing. Therefore, who are we following and where's our anchor? Uh, I'm anchoring to the chief inspector and Cyril. I think they're so interesting, and there's some ethical like bending and debauchery that's happening there. Like, oh, that's juicy. I would watch the show just to see like what they get up to. But I think that's not what the show's intention is, and it's gonna break down at some point because our show is about Andrew Cassian.
Yeah, but I think that's a really good point in that the tension between those two characters, there's conflict there. And we
Yeah,
see somebody going against orders, which is very interesting in like this
always fun.
company, you know, like we love that. That's fascinating and like his rebellion that he's doing. That's interesting. and he is making
Yeah.
deliberate choices. We know exactly what he wants, and he's going for it. We don't know who Cassian is really or what he wants. Again, you don't need to know everything because it's only the first episode, but I feel like we needed a little bit more there, or we needed some sort of I don't know. We just needed more personality, I feel like, from him, because
Yeah.
he's just kind of neutral, which is a real shame. Like I would imagine he's not going to, stay this kind of like neutral character throughout the entire show, but I wish we could have gotten a little charisma or spark or something interesting for us to latch on during this episode, and then we might be more inclined to like want to keep watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think based on the episode that we got, a more interesting ending scene for me would have been him firing up his ship that he's clearly like smuggling or trying to like sell some bootleg item that he's received that's of value. And something goes wrong. I don't even care what goes wrong. Maybe we hear the alarm bells going and he's going to get caught by the authorities. Maybe the ship can't start and he has to, and something. It's like there's such momentum that he seems to be having by the end of the episode. He's on a mission. He's got some kind of mini goal, a task to complete. We don't really know why and why that is important, but like he's going to go do this thing and then something can go wrong, and then I'm like, okay, so what went wrong, and then how is he going to deal with it, and what is our character, how is our character going to respond to problems? That I might click, the next one if there's nothing else to do. But I think that would have been interesting based on the content that we got, because there is a clear momentum buildup, especially in the second half of the episode. He's got a mission, he's got people he's talked to, he's secured all the goods, he's secured his items. Alarm bells are going off and we just hear the beginning of them blaring, and then it cuts. Okay, like shit's about to hit the fan. I'm okay. I could be geared up for something like that. So I think that could have been a stronger ending than the flashback sister bit that we got, which I'm sure will play into something over the course of
Oh
the
yeah.
season, but not as the ending scene to get us hooked into where the last like couple of beats leading up to the ending scene have led us to.
Yeah, yeah, it was it was interesting when I was watching this last night. Uh Once it cut to black, I was like, "Oh, what? That's it?"
Mm,
Like it felt so abrupt and so shocking that we would end there, but like shocking not in a good way though.
yeah.
But like almost like it was an incomplete thought that got cut off. That's
Mm,
that's kind of what it felt like to me, and I think that speaks to what you were just saying about that momentum. We're seeing as he's talking to all these people, there's some conflict there. The dude is like, "No, I'm done with you. Go away. I don't want
yeah.
anything to do with what you're doing." Like I wish that they would have kept going with that and like showing him, doing the opposite of what the dude just said, or,
Yeah.
stealing something, or like you said, something goes wrong, like something in the present to really like we can really latch on to and want to see more of. Or if in the flashback it's something dramatic happens, maybe the ship crash lands at the end, and
Hmm.
like that is the big ending, or something like that. Like we maybe the flashbacks earlier in the episode need to be more of like this peaceful serene community and them enjoying nature and all of that, and then it ends with this
The crash.
spaceship crashing and it's completely different than the rest of the world that they've ever encountered before, or
Yeah.
something like that pushes the plot forward. Obviously the scene does, but I don't think in a big enough way for us to be like, oh, yes, I must keep watching. It's like, no,
Yeah.
we know that he feels guilty because his sister is missing. So, like, we didn't get anything new here. We didn't get anything like flashy or exciting here. It's just like,
Yeah.
no, all right, this is sad. It shows his guilt, presumably, but that's kind of it.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm going to submit another alternate ending, which is still a flashback, but I think it would have been interesting to see a flashback Cassian have that inner turmoil when he's having to leave his sister a little bit more. Like maybe just increasing the intensity of that would have helped, because one of the most interesting scenes about this character where we learn a little bit about him is when he accidentally kills one of the men outside of the brothel. And we see his turmoil before he chooses to execute the second man. And that's really interesting about who this character is. That was the most interesting and character revealing moment that we get to learn about him. So it would have been interesting to see him have that same like look on his face or turmoil. Maybe his sister's crying and he's like torn between staying and going, but ultimately chooses to go. And what does that say about how he's always been wired, and then how that still is informing perhaps that inner tension that he feels when he's having to make a really hard, morally ambiguous choice between self-preservation, but maybe at the cost of pain to another human being. Like, I think that would have been really neat to put that really interesting, honestly, the most interesting scene of this whole episode in conversation with a flashback moment where he really feels like he's being ripped apart, and he has to make a hard choice. And so maybe there needs to be more stakes too. Like he might not, I don't know. I think intensity perhaps needs to be increased a little bit more too, to bring out those really interesting character bits. Like apply a little bit more pressure to our characters in flashbacks or present, so we kind of see a little bit more of what they're made of. And I don't think it's necessarily melodrama. I think it's more um, allowing strategically to have moments where something interesting or contradictory is revealed about our character that we have to chew on. And a lot of the times, the way to do that is putting them in these kind of like pressurized environments where they have to make fast decisions or hard decisions, or are torn emotionally, and what they choose is often quite telling. So that's my alternative. We're going to do a flashback, mirroring those two scenes between the one outside the brothel in the present and his flashback choice that he has to make. Would have been maybe a little bit more like cerebrally interesting.
Yeah, and maybe his sister being forced to stay could be like more of his direct action, instead of just being like, "Hey, like stay," and then she just stays. Like
Yeah,
he could have like pushed her away or something, or you know what I mean, like something.
you have to go back.
Yeah,
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 something.
something a little bit more confrontational, just
Yeah.
because then that guilt that he's wrestling with, I think, would make more sense. Now, I mean, she's just a little kid and he told her to kind of stay, and so she does. Like, that's kind of it. Like,
Hmm.
so I think even like turning the volume up on that, and making that a little bit more, I don't know, tense would have helped at least.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. So we've got some rewrites that we've
Hmm.
submitted in. I don't know. A lot of people watch this whole show and absolutely are loving it.
Yeah.
So clearly, the opening and closing scenes worked for them. We're, I guess, missing something, or well, we can just live in our own little hobbit hole here and pretend that this is this is not working. And maybe it's the Star Warsness of it all that like allows audiences to give things a little bit more of a chance. Like it's in a universe that we know and love. It's from a piece of IP that is beloved. And so, okay, let's see what else you got, Personally, I'm over all the IP TV show spinoffs. So I'm just annoyed in general too that this exists. But again, people rave about the show. So clearly there's something really fascinating here that maybe is a slower burn and a longer trajectory that I am so sorry I don't have the patience for at this time and season of my life. That's the honest truth. Any other last thoughts about this closing scene? It's so funny that you forgot that you
I did. I
so
really
tickled by that.
forgot. So, yeah.
That's how that's going for you.
That's where I'm at in my life, is I have
Yeah.
now watched this twice and I didn't realize that. So, yeah, I'm so curious about season 2 though. And I'm like,
Mm,
I need to ask some people who have watched it and be like, "Can I just skip to season 2? Like, do I have to
That
watch
thing.
season 1?
Yeah.
Because I have no problem just jumping ahead to where it gets good. So I don't know. I might have to do a little research and see if maybe that's the route to go. But yeah, based on this, I have no desire to watch anymore. Like, if it's on, like, okay, fine. But it's not one that I'm going to actively seek out because I have so many other shows that I very much do want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel like we are in the minority,
We
uh,
are,
but it is what it is.
you know?
Here we are.
Who gave it a shot. And
We did.
I'm just honestly excited because so many of our previous Hooked episodes have been from shows that obviously we've loved and we've reviewed.
Yeah.
And it's been yeses across the board. And so it's actually more interesting to me to see something that doesn't work and unpack and analyze and kind of discuss why. I think that's really
Mhm.
interesting. I'm excited for a future Hooked episode where we disagree, like
Yes,
I'm
me
hooked and you're not,
too.
or you're hooked and I'm not. And I
Yeah.
think that'll be really interesting too. But I love that we got some no's.
Mhm.
That's totally valid and interesting, and honestly rounds out a fuller picture than if we're honestly just every show we're like, yeah, we love it. Give us more. Like,
Yeah.
that's not real. And this one didn't work for us, but it's working for a lot of people, and perhaps that's the long game. So I think that's fascinating to put in conversation with our other Hooked episodes too, which is fun. All right, well, this is our discussion of Andor's episode 1 closing scene. You can find it available to stream on Disney Plus. Thank you for listening to this episode of Are You Hooked, where we discuss how a TV show captivates an audience or doesn't captivate an audience. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune into your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about Andor's closing scene of its first episode. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at tvnspod, or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on TV and Us and our other podcast, Movies and Us. We'll be back soon with a new season that we're going to be launching here on TV and Us. So stay tuned. Check our feed to see what we'll be reviewing next. Next one should be a pretty fascinating one. So yeah, that'll be, I think, fun for us to be able to review and talk about, because they're going to probably run in so many different directions with it. So it'll be interesting to see which one they pick. All right, well, we hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.